Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Nama Pranavarthaya Shuddha Jnanaikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prashantaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Ritam pibantau sukritasya loke.
ऋतं पिबन्तौ सुकृतस्य लोके
Guham pravishtav parame parardhe.
Guham pravishtav parame parardhe.
Chaya tapo brahmavido vadanti.
Chaya
छायातपो
tapo
ब्रह्मविदो
brahmavido
वदन्ति
vadanti.
Panchagnayo ye cha trinachiketaha.
Panchagnayo ye
पञ्चाग्नयो
cha
च
nachiketaha.
Many times, many of the Upanishads, they will talk about the two possibilities for a human being. Here, Yamadharmarada talks about Shreyas and Preyas, two different efforts. And in Mundaka Upanishad, it talks about Paravidya and Aparavidya. Both are available. It is for the individual to choose, depending upon what level of understanding, clarity, certainty, or uncertainty that the person has. Because sometimes we draw conclusions and we think we are very sure, but at the back of the mind, we know there are a lot of questions. So depending upon one's own inclinations, one's own bent mind, one can choose whichever path. There's nothing wrong in choosing prayers. It depends on where we are. But one has to be clear that from there you've got to move on to eventually to Shreyas, Moksha. Most religions, almost all religions, including the karmatas of Hindu, only look at Shreyas. They don't focus on moksha as a purushartha. They stop at a vague point somewhere, saying, post this sharira, my scripture says, I go to a good place. Somewhere along there, they stop and they don't ask any further questions. And if they ask questions, like Bertrand Russell, they will say, why I'm not a Christian or a Hindu or a Muslim or whatever. But they don't ask questions. They accept what is told to them, that you do this, you will go to a place which is very nice. And what is very nice, that also they define. You will have a halo and you will have angels around you, all the rest of that. And in contrast, if you don't do what I tell you to do, you will go to one place where they will fry you in oil or whatever, or put you in fire or something. Similarly, in every other religion, you go to Jannat or you go to Jahannam. And then the descriptions of what you should do to go here or go here. As does the ritualist Hindu practitioner. My Shastra tells me that if I do certain things in a certain way, I live my life in a certain way, I can go to Svargadi Loka. And then they also stop there. Similarly, all our Dvaitins are told that you get Samipyam, you go to a place where Ishvara is there in the form of whatever form they worship, and you can be near them. The problem there is, in all of these, you never lose your sense of individual I. So a lot of questions arise. If I'm going to be near Perumal, will I be in the same Sharira? My Sharira is already burnt. What Sharira will I have? If I don't have a Sharira, will I still have the same I? If I have the same I, then others who are there also will have their own I. Then all the problem that I'm facing here, I'll face there also. Jealousy. How come his wing is whiter than my wing? How come his halo is bigger than my halo? All that will start. So those are questions they don't consider, they don't think about. They accept it. That's why it's called faith. But our Shastras, when you look in the form of Upanishads, talks of both. It says that whichever path you choose, you can choose. And if you choose a path which says, after the death of the body, I'm going to get certain good things happening to me. And when you say good things happening to me, already you still have that I. The same I with which you are doing all of this here continues. And when you say that I have good things, that whole thing is still samsara. So the distinction that Upanishads make is either you do things where you continue to be in samsara. Today, the person who is in Bangalore, he will talk about a Bangalore of the 60s and 70s and say, oh, what a beautiful place it was. It was heaven. Today it's become a hell. I am stuck in traffic for hours. I just doesn't move. Weather has become terrible. In my days, that's what they'll say, In my days, many houses didn't even have a provision for a fan because we didn't need it. So it is going in terms of time from one to the other. In terms of space, oh, I'm finding Chennai too hot. So I'm going to move to Coimbatore. It's better weather. That is also samsara to samsara. Within samsara, the whole thing is samsara. And all you do is, no, I'm going to work so hard as prescribed by the Vedas that I'm going to go to Svargaloka, Svargadiloka. That is also samsara. From this part of samsara, you go to that part of samsara, go to another part of samsara, come back to this samsara. So one path continues in samsara, and the Shreyas path, when one is ready, gets you out of samsara. So these both are talked about in many Upanishads. Already the Yamadharmaraja has talked earlier about this. There are two ways one can. In fact, he starts the whole Upadesha with saying there are two ways, Shreyas and Preyas, and then goes on and on and on. Still continues in the same thing, because those he just broadly defined them, and then now goes into details of what each is. That's why when Shankaracharya introduced this part of the Valli, he says, Tampi bodheti asyaha valyaha sambandha vidya avidye nana viruddha pale iti upanyaste. There are two different things which have been talked about already. One is Shreyas, one is Preyas. And both have, one is Vidya, another is Avidya. And both have different types of results. Vidya can have multiple results because it's all finite. And these results are opposed to each other. Viruddhe. This we broadly talked about. Despite the fact that there is result, neither method is without result. But details have not been given. Yatha, yathavat, nirnite, na nirnite. Has not been told as it should be. Only broadly defined. So this only gets into the details of those. That's why ritam pibantau sukritasya loke guham pravishto parame parardhe. Chaya tapo brahmavido vadanti panchagnayo yecha trinachiketa. Again, in the second line you say brahmavidaha vadanti. The knowers of Brahman, they know, they talk about this. So do the people who are grihasthas, who also know what the Shastra says, but they are karmatas. So it still continues the same division. And as is normal with Bashyam, the Acharya takes each word of the mantra and makes sure we understand the correct meaning of that word. Sometimes he will just give an alternate word for that, which is as good as the original word. Sometimes the original word is easier than the alternate word he gives. But many times he expands on that, he talks about what it is. Here you've seen Ritam. Normally, Ritam we think of as Satyam as I know it. It is still within the Jagat Samsara. But here he redefines it. Ritam is Satyam Avashyam Bhavitvat. Because it will happen without fail. What will happen without fail? Every karma will produce karma phala. No chance of any failure. If karma is going to produce karma phala all the time, then Swamiji, when I come into this Jagat with this Sharira, I already come with certain karma. That means I have to suffer all that. Generally, yes, you have to suffer all that. But Shastra gives us two types of remedies. One, I know that I have an infection. Because that I've studied the Shastra. Shastra says you are a Mishra, Samsari. You have both Punya Karma and Papa Karma in your bank. I know the Papa Karma is going to create problem for me. So for that, Shastra gives you two types of solutions. One is like a broad spectrum antibiotic. What is that? Daily prayer, outreach karma, dhanam, all of that is prescribed. These will have phala. Any prayer will have phala. Any good karma you do will have phala. And these phala, some of them will negate or at least mitigate the phala of the papa karma that I carry with me. So you can alter it. But you don't alter the connection between my karma and karma phala. What I do is by producing another karma, try and reduce the effect of this karma phala. That's all I can do. So one is like a broad spectrum antibiotic, daily puja rituals, planting trees and watering them, looking after them, feeding animals and birds, feeding other beings. All these are broad spectrum antibiotics. Even. Then there are, normally in infection, what the doctor will do, he will take a sample and then they will do, what do they call it? For specific types of viruses or bacteria and what they will respond to. routine and some word for that, I don't remember. Which then will specify, oh, I have this problem, I have to have this solution for that. So this is what good astrologers will do to you. They will see your reflection of the prarabdha in your horoscope. It is there. And depending upon the time your dasha and bhukti, he will say, around this time we like you to have this issue, health issue, mental issue, family issue, whatever. Broadly, he will tell you. Say, my God, then how do I get over it? He will say, this is going to last you 2.5 years. So one way of doing it is, after the first 6 months, you will get used to it. I have to go through it, I have to go through it. Another is to do a prashchitta karma. Specific prashchitta karma, which a jnani in the field of Horashastra can specify. For this kind of dosha that you're carrying with you, do this yajna. Go every Thursday to a Garuda temple and do puja. Whatever. So that is also another karma which then attempts to minimize the effect of the specific papa karma that I carry with. Therefore, karma and karma phala are absolutely connected. No way can you break the connection. That connection will always be there. I can reduce the effect of it by doing another karma. That's the best I can do. Sometimes completely eliminate it, depending upon how strong the prarabdha karma is. But this connection is infallible. That is why Bashyam bhavitvat, this karma phalam. So ritam he takes and explains what is ritam. Ritam is karma phalam. Similarly, he takes pibantau. Two people are drinking. It is dual case. Pibantau. Pibantau again, somewhere I saw. Pibati iti bhunkte. Pibantau, drink. You can enjoy drinking even a glass of water. Other people I know will go to the bar and think they enjoy whatever drink they get there. You ask them, why do you do this? I get a kick. You come here, I'll give you one. Why do you want to go to the bar and spoil your health? Pibantau. Two people are enjoying this karma phala, which he calls a drink. So he says, Pibantau, pibati iti bhunkte, no pibantau. Two people enjoy that karma phala, which is ritam. Tatra ekaha karma phalam pibati. Now, what are these two? All the time we talk about two. He says, in this sharira, which is called loka here, there is a jivatma and paramatma. Jivatma, paramatma can never be separated. Therefore, what happens when jivatma, which is the one that does the drinking, paramatma does no drinking, but jivatma can do no drinking without paramatma. Stuck with it. Therefore, you can say, Pibantau, Atma does not drink, Atma is not a bhukta. But the Jivatma is a bhukta. But he thinks he is a bhukta. But since the Jivatma cannot operate at all without Atma, it is fair to say Pibantau. And like that, Acharya, we've looked at this. Sukritasya. Technically, Sukritasya is of the good deeds. But we've seen, every dvandva in the Jagat belongs to the Jagat. Sukritam, Dushkritam, both are the same. Both have results. The Sukrita result is Punya Karma Phala. The Dushkrita result is Papa Karma Phala. But he says, Swayam Kritasya Karmanaha. So in order to remove all those doubts and make sure we understand it correctly, he explains Sukritasya as Swayam Kritasya Karmanaha. Ritam. Ritam is Karma Phalam. There is a connection. So far he's taken up Ritam, Pibantau, Sukritasya and Sukritasya. These three only is taken up. Ritam, Pibantau, Sukritasya, Loke. Then he takes up the other part of this mantra. We will read the Bashyam from here. We've got the part? Yeah. Loke.
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 Asmin Sharire.
Asmin
Asmin
Sharire.
Sharire.
Guham.
Guhayam.
Guhayam.
Buddhau Pravishtau.
Buddhau
Pravishtav.
Pravishtav.
Keep it there, we'll continue. Loke. Asmin Sharire. So here Loka, different. Lokete iti Lokaha. That which experiences is Loka. So here Loka he explains as the Sharira. Both these are in the Sharira. And in the Sharira only Pibantau. What Pibantau? Ritam Pibantau. Karma Phalam Pibantau. So both are there. There is the Loke Asmin Sharire. Loke is Asmin Sharire. So he takes up next word. Okay? Guham. Guham he says Guhayam. And Guhayam is Buddhau. And Pravishtav. Pravishtav he doesn't explain. But we know what Pravishtav is. Enter. Both enter. Both the Jiva and the Paramatma enter this Sharira as though. There should be no doubt. There is no physical entry. Atma we know is Anantam. There is no question of physical entry. Not only physical entry, he says Guham. Guham redefines it Guhayam, in the Guha. In the Guha, and that he says Buddhau. In the Buddhi. Buddhau is Saptami, Buddhi. Harao, Buddhau, Pravishtav. Both of them, they enter the Buddhi. Why do we say enter the Buddhi? It is not that there's a physical entry, but we are a living entity as an individual entity with our own Sthula Shukshma Sharira, and we are making an attempt to understand what is Jiva, what is Ishvara, Paramatma. Are they two different things? Are they the same thing? Atma, Anatma, Viveka, we're trying to figure out. And we know Shastra says, Jiva Ishvara Aikyam, How can it be Aikyam? What is it, the way, which way should one understand this? How does that understanding take place? In the buddhi, buddhav. Therefore, buddhi is what is called the upalabdhisthanam, where one can gain the knowledge of the nature of Ishvara, the nature of Jiva, and the Aikyam between them. This is Loke Asmin Sharire Guham Guhayam Buddhau Pravishtav, as though in that small space both have entered. Now this can create confusion. Acharya will not leave confusion. So he explains it further. Next word here is parame. This is Guham Pravishtau Parame Parardhe. So it takes up parame. Parame Bahya Purushakasha Samsthanapekshaya Paramam.
Bahya
Purushakasha
Purushakasha
Samsthanapekshya
Samsthanapekshya
Paramam.
Parardhe
Parardhe
Parasya Brahmanordham
Parasya Brahmanodham
Brahmanodham
Sthanam Parardham
Sthanam Parardham
Ardhakasham
Vardhakasham
Tasmin hi param brahmopalabhyate
Tasmin hi
Tasmin hi
param
param
brahmopalabhyate
brahmopalabhyate
Taha
Saha
Taha
Tasmin parame parardhe
Tasmin
Parame
parame
Parardhe
parardhe
Ardhakashe
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 Pravishtav ityarthah.
Pravishta
Pravishtav
Vittah.
Having said that, in this Sharira, there is a space in which both enter. Bhashyakara explains it further by saying, it says Parame Parardhe. Now you should see this combination of Parame Parardhe in many places. Somewhat technical. In relation to what is external to the Sharira and what is internal to the Sharira. Everything in relation to the Sharira. So, in that kind of relationship, whether you look at the external world, Bahya Samsthana, the external space. See, there is space within the Sharira. There is also space outside the Sharira. But in relation to the space outside, Bahya Samsthana, and in relation also to the internal space, Purusha Akasha Samsthana. Bahya Akasha Samsthana and Purusha Akasha Samsthana. Purusha Akasha is this individual being. See, sometimes this confusion can also arise. Purusha we talk of as the Uttama Purusha. But here the Purusha means the individual Sharira. So what, if you take this as the boundary, the skin as the boundary, then the space inside and the space outside, related to both of them, Parame, so he explains Parame. What is Parame? Bahya Purusha Akasha Samsthana. So Bahya Akasha Samsthana and Purusha Akasha Samsthana apekshaya, compared to, in relation to. In relation to whether you take the space within the Sharira, the space outside the Sharira, this is called Paramam. This space is called Paramam. Hridakasha, Hardakasha. Hridayam generally means heart, but here it's not heart. It is where that knowledge of Brahman can take place, Buddha. That also he will say. Because he said, Parame Bahya Purushakasha Samsthan Apekshaya Paramam. That is Parame. In the Parama, in that Parama Sthanam. In the space which you call Paramam. Parardhe. This sacred space. Parardhe. Again is the word from the Parame Parardhe. Parardhe. Parasya Brahmana Ardham Sthanam Parardham. What is Parardham? Parasya Brahmana Ardham Sthanam. The Sthanam, the space where one identifies Brahman. Not a physical space. You cannot have a physical space for Brahman because space is also Brahman. But where this Brahman is identified. Parardhe means Parasya Brahmanaha Ardham Sthanam Parardham. What is that Parardham? What is that space? Ardhakasham. In the space called Ardhakasham, the space of the heart, space in the heart. Angushtamatram. It is only for understanding. Why is it called Ardhakasham, where both Brahman, Atma and the Jiva have entered? Because somehow we have identified that the Sharira operates. Sharira operates because it has all the operating instruments. But without the Atma as the operator, acting in the form of Jiva, none of these instruments will work. Correct? Chakshush-chakshuhu. Shrotrasya shrotram. That which activates all of these is what is Atma appearing in the Sharira as Jivatma. As for all our practical purpose, we've been saying as reflection of the Atma. So there are two. All this while, this mantra talks about two. Immediately the thought comes in the mind, are we talking about Dvaitam? Okay, the starting point is always Dvaitam. You have to go from Dvaitam and understand Advaitam in spite of the Dvaitam. Dvaitam is never wiped out. Just because you understand Advaitam, we don't reject Dvaitam. So he says, Parardhe Parasya Brahmana Ardham Sthanam. Ardham is Sthanam. So Brahmana Sthanam. Sthanam of Brahman is Parardham. Where is it? Ardhakasham. Hridasya Akasham. Space within of the heart. Space of the heart if you want. All this while I've been trying to understand that Atma, Brahman is Anantam. Now, not only the mantra, but even the Bashyam is saying there's a space in the heart, and in that heart space is where both Atma and Jivatma reside. I've entered. Only as though. Why is it as though? So, Acharya says, Tasmin hi
Tasmin
param brahmopalabhyate
Param Brahmopalabhyate
ataha
Atah
tasmin parame parardhe
Tasmin Parame Parabhye
ardhakashe
Ardhakashe
pravishtau ityarthah.
Pravishtav
That Ardhakasham, space within the heart, is where heart is said is Buddha. Where tasmin, there he, parama brahmam upalabhyate. Parama brahma upalabhyate. That is where you can gain the knowledge of Param Brahma. It is not because there is a physical residence within each body. There are only for the purpose that I know that I have an Atma. I don't know where that Atma is. I'm still trying to figure out whether Atma is the third person or first person. And I'm trying to understand. The Shastra says, look, I told you there are two things. One Jivatma and a Paramatma. In your Sharira, both are there. Both are there because you can't separate them. Why is the Jivatma there? Why is it not there in a stone? They are not two things, my friend. There's only one. The other is as though it's a reflection, a mirror image, a shadow. I told you, somebody went to the to his hotel room, and the hotel room had lots of mirrors. So he saw 5 reflections of himself. He wanted to have a cup of coffee. And he said, how can I have coffee alone? There are so many other people in the room. 5 more people in the room. So should I order 6 cups of coffee? Oh, those 5 are not separate. Those 5 exist because you are there. And they all don't look the same because this mirror is different from this mirror, it's different from this mirror, it's different from this mirror. Each one looks different. I have 5 different guests in my room. Unwanted guests perhaps, but the guests are there. How can I have coffee only by myself and not offer them coffee? So should I ask 6 cups of coffee? Hey, Buddhu, they don't exist. You are the only existing thing. You are mistaking what doesn't exist as Satyam. Sometimes you see animals do this, Animals will see an image in a mirror and they will get very angry. In where we park the car, sometimes these birds come, they're called 7 sisters, very noisy birds. And I've actually seen them. They come and the wing mirror is there, wing mirror is open. So they see in the wing mirror and they start screaming and shouting and pecking at the wing mirror. Assuming there are not only him, there's also another person. And there are many Panchatantra stories on this, based on this. This mistake. Now that is very obvious mistake because we can see it. We can see from outside the system. We can see that there's a mirror and there is somebody here and who is mistaking the image in the mirror to be also a second person. But the same mistake we are doing all the time in this Jagat. We are not seeing that everything else that exists, although they may have different shapes and sizes, are all anatma. There is only one Atma. You start by saying there are 2, and then you now tell me how can I understand this? There's only one. That space you talk about, because space is limitation. The moment you say space, there is a limitation, and we say Atma is anantam, no limitation. So he says they are like chaya and light, daylight. Daylight and the shadow that daylight creates. Hey, the shadow is not another person. One person got very angry with somebody. But let us say he got angry with his wife and they're walking on the street. There's no way he can do anything to his wife. He knows. घर आओ बताऊंगा, मैं बताऊंगी. So he says, he stamps on the shadow of his wife, saying, let me at least get rid of my frustration with her. A shadow is not different. You can't stamp on the shadow. You go put your foot on the shadow time on your foot. Shadow is not a spirit thing. Shadow and the original are one. There's only one original. They're only shadows. They're only images. Like that, everything in the Jagat Anatma is only like a shadow. So he continues. Taucha
Taucha
Ucha
Chaya Tapau
Chaya
tapo
Tapo
Chaya Tapo Iva
Chaya Tapai
Chaya
tapo
Tapo
iva
Iva
Vilakshanau
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 Samsaritvena
Samsaritvena
Brahmavidaha Vadanti
Brahmavidaha Vadanti
Brahmavidaha
vadanti
Vadanti
Kayanti.
Kathayanti
kayanti.
The other word is taken from the Chaya Tapau. These two are like Chaya Tapau Iva, an original and a shadow. Shadow is is really non-existing. But shadow is still there. You can see the shadow. Shadow is moving. Even when you don't move, because the sun moves, the shadow moves. It grows longer, it goes shorter. So it's a live, it looks like a live thing. But is it live? No, it has no existence. Chaya tapo iva vilakshanau. They are separate in their lakshana. One is satyam, the other is mithya. Therefore, vilakshanau, they don't have the same order of existence. Like the fellow who wanted to order coffee, those 5 images he saw, they don't belong to the same order of reality as that person himself. You can take 1 cup of coffee, they'll all have that 1 cup of coffee each. You don't have to order 6 cups of coffee. They will all have. You only have to order 1 cup of coffee. Because they're vilakshana, they're different. Chaya tapo iva vilakshanau samsaritva samsaritvena sisti samsara. One is samsara, one is non-samsara. One is atma, one is anatma. Samsaritva, samsaritva, samsaritvena. One is samsari, other is non-samsari. Samsari is one order of reality. Asamsari is another order of reality. Waking is one order of reality. Dream is another order of reality. So, samsaritva, asamsaritvena. These two are very different. They vilakshana, and they therefore will not behave the same way. If you hit the shadow, there is no pain. But if they hit the original, there's anger. They behave differently. Even if hit the shadow, the original does not get angry. Samsaritva asamsaritvena brahmavidaha vadanti. So, Brahmavid, the one who understands, they say that it is like Chaya Tapau. One is samsari, mithya, other is asamsari, satyam. One is the original, others are all reflections. So although that looks like each one has a separate atma, each animal, each insect, each mosquito has a separate atma, they aren't. They're just one atma. They are all like Chaya tapau. Chaya atapau. Brahmavidaha vadanti. Vadanti means kathayanti, they say. The beauty here is, it's not only the Brahmavid. Even the person who is a karmata, who is a samsari, who is doing all the rituals. He may be doing the rituals for purposes of earning sufficient punya to make a journey to another loka after death. Alternately, he may be doing karma again for earning punya for Atma Shuddhi, Atma Shuddhaye. So one becomes a karmi, other becomes a karma yogi. Both are karmi. But they are both very similar. That's what the karma yogi also understands, because karma yogi is a mumukshu. Basic condition, one of the relevant conditions for him to be a karma yogi is to have mumukshutva. So he says, Brahmavidha vadanti kathayanti, not only them, na kevalam
न केवलं
Kevalam
karmani eva vadanti.
karmani
कर्मणि
eva vadanti.
Karmani eva vadanti.
Karmani
कर्मण
eva
एव
vadanti.
वदन्ति
It is not only the akarmani. Who is an akarmani? Who has understood karma is not what I want. Karma is not going to give me what I want. Karma is going to give me kama phalam, that's not what I'm looking for. My only objective is moksha, which I will get only through jnanam. He's not only a mumukshu, he's a jignasu. That akarmanaha is not the only one who says that. Nad kevalam akarmani eva vadanti. Only akarmani don't say this. Even people who are karma yogis will say this. How? Panchagnayaha,
पञ्चाग्नयः
Panchagnayaha
grihasthaha,
grihasthaha
ye cha,
ये च
ye cha
nachiketaha,
तृणाचिकेताः
nachiketaha
krutva,
कृत्वा
कृत्वा
nachiketo agnischito,
नाचिकेतो
nachiketo
अग्निश्चितो
agnischito
yaiste,
यैस्ते
yaiste
ye trinachiketaha.
तृणाचिकेताः
nachiketaha.
So it is not only the akarmanaha who say this, who do karma also say this. They also recognize that there are two. As do. Even they recognize this. Not kevalam karmani, karminaha eva, etavad badanti, panchagnayaha. That's our next word from our Chaya tapo brahmavido vadanti, panchagnayaha. It defines as grihasthaha. Once one takes up the next ashrama, grihastha ashrama, and has a patni, then he is prescribed certain rituals to do regularly. You cannot do unless you have a patni. These you cannot do if you are a brahmachari or if you are a sannyasi. But as a grihastha with a patni, that's the kind of importance our Shastra gives to the patni. Although she herself may not do the sankalpa or the puja or the yajna, without her, the man cannot do it. Right? Swamiji goes one step further. He encourages all women also to do sankalpa. According to him, there is nothing to stop you from doing it. So the Panchagnaya literally means 5 agnis. When one takes grastha ashrama, with the Patni. Patni is not wife. Remember, you can't get married in registrar office, that's not Patni. Patni is when the marriage is done as per Vedic processes and rituals. Only then she becomes a Patni. And once she becomes a Patni, there is no change after that. Unlike the modern day Patni, looks like a temporary Patni within 2 years or 5 years, they change the designation from Patni to single. Patni is what, sometimes these foreigners used to come to the Anakati ashram when we were there. And 2 of them will say, we want to get married in the Murugan temple. Swamiji was very skeptical, although he allowed them to do that. He said, what marriage? They've been living through the last 5 years. What kind of marriage is this? Marriage, a Patni-Pati relationship comes after the Vedic rituals. Only then it becomes Patni-Pati relationship. So these Pati and together with the Patni, they are supposed to light 5 different fires. There are some names for it which I don't remember. Agnihotra. And these fires have to be kept alive through the life. That means they have to do this rituals, whether I don't remember twice a day or once a day, but they have to keep it, and the fire has to be kept alive. In India Gate in Delhi, they have what do they call it? One Jyoti dedicated to the soldiers who died in the World War. That's never put off. Of course, that is lit by gas, and they keep a continuous supply of gas. So the light is always Atma Jyoti. That's what they call it.
Amar
But here,
Jawan Jyoti.
they keep this various fires and ensure that it never goes off. And then the last fire is used for the cremation. That's how the whole process is. So Panchagneha is Grahastha. Or even though these are all people who are strict karmatas, they follow the rituals, they follow the prescription given in the Vedas and live a dharmic life as per the Veda. So do the Trinachiketaha. Nachiketa Agni, Yamadharmaraja talked about earlier, he taught it to Nachiketa. That Agni by which at the end of this life, one can hope to go to Swargaloka. That process, the detailed process, is given, and is so happy with Nachiketa that he gives it the name Nachiketa Agnihi. So they use the same word here in this thing. Trinachiketaha. Those who, and they're all plural. Trinachiketaha, Panchagnaya. All these are, Panchagnayaha is also plural. Panchagni, Panchagnayaha. Trinachiketaha is also plural. All those who do this, they also understand that there are as though two in every Sharira. Trinachiketaha, Trikrutvo, Nachiketa Agnischato, Yaiste. One who performed the Nachiketa Agni 3 times. So that is Trinachiketaha. Trihi Krutvo, Krutvaha, Nachiketa Agnischataha, Yaiste. Yahate. Yaihite. Plural. Yaihite Trinachiketaha. Those are called Trinachiketaha. So, idea in this verse, and we'll follow up the idea in the next verse also, next mantra, is that there are as though 2 elements in each Sharira. Inseparable elements. The Jivatma and the Atma, which makes the Jivatma operate, which makes all the instruments of the Jivatma operate. Jivatma has no existence without that Atma. Remember, we talked about this in the last class. For a fabric, the yarn is the Atma. Without the yarn, there is no fabric. In that sense, also Atma is used. For all the gold ornaments, gold is the Atma. Without the gold, there are no ornaments. Ornaments will name and form. All Anatma have no existence without the Atma. Therefore, one has to understand this as dual as though. Trinachiketa Agnishchataha Yehi Yaihi Te Trinachiketaha. They are the Trinachiketas. They also understand this because they are mumukshus. They have moksha as the purushartha. So they understand that there's more than just going to Swargaloka. This idea will continue into the next mantra. And then this Valli will quietly slip into how to understand this through an example, a beautiful example. We will look at that in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.